I'm joined as always by Rob Brown, Absolute Security's very own Patch Tuesday guru. He's going to run us through the vulnerabilities highlighted this month and give you the best possible advice on how to patch for them. And it looks like a record-breaking set of vulnerabilities this month you'll want to stay tuned for. Take it away, Rob.
Thanks, Justine, and a very warm welcome to everyone joining us for the October Patch Tuesday. As Justine said, we actually have a record-breaking release this month. Before we get started, though, we do have to say goodbye to an operating system we've been using for well over a decade. Windows 10 officially has gone end of life. Yesterday was the final patch or patches for the operating system. There will no longer be any more security updates or any patches, that is, for that operating system, unless you have the long-term servicing for that operating system. That does offer some issues if you still have some legacy systems in your organization running legacy software. I would highly recommend that you implement zero trust policies just to make sure that those machines are as protected as they can, because there won't be any more security updates to it. One more thing, sometimes we are advised by certain antivirus organizations that when an operating system does go end of life, they will stop supporting it as well. And obviously that is a particular serious matter as well. So if you still are using Windows 10, please move to Windows 11 as soon as you possibly can. Windows Server 2012 actually is just fallen into amber risk. We have one more year left of the 3-year renewal for this operating system. It is also is pretty much as old as Windows 10, and it is going end of life on a 3-year extension, as I mentioned, in 2026. So we're going to keep this amber for another 6 months, and then we're going to turn it red. If you still have Windows Server 2012, we recommend either Server 2019 or preferably Server 2022. Windows 11, we did say goodbye to 22H2 this month as well. That means that you have to go to 24H2 if you want to remain in support for that operating system. Windows 11 Home and Pro 23H2 is going end of life next month. So please do make sure that that gets upgraded to 24H2 to remain in compliance. We are aware that 25H2 is available right now. I feel the industry recommends at least 3 months from the release of a feature update till you deploy it to your organization is a pretty safe period of time, just to make sure that the first few cumulative updates that are released correct any issues in the adoption of that feature update. Windows 11 Enterprise 23H2, you have till next year, so there's plenty of time to keep supporting that operating system, but do plan to move to 24H2 or 25H2. Those times do tick by quite quickly, and considering it is such a large upgrade, and I don't say update, it is an upgrade of the operating system, it can take anywhere between 1 hour and potentially 2 hours of end user disruption with multiple reboots. If you have challenges with a Windows upgrade from 10 to 11, or you have challenges with the feature update, do get in contact with us via any of the methods and mechanisms we have. We do have recommendations and best practices available for you to try, whether you are an absolute customer or not. Now, when is a vulnerability not a vulnerability that you have to worry about? That is a unique scenario that we had this month from Microsoft. They released 8 vulnerabilities that were in that large number that we talked about that are already fixed by Microsoft. Thank you very much, Microsoft. These are fully mitigated by Microsoft. They are all cloud-based vulnerabilities. Some of them are the weaponized ones that I mentioned. Some of these are also very high CVSS scores. They are for Azure Entra ID, which was known as Azure AD, PlayFab, Microsoft 365, Copilot, and Redis Enterprise. Now, they have released this as guidance just to say, look, we are aware we've got vulnerabilities, but you don't have to do anything about it. I think that's quite a good thing from Microsoft. We had 3 elevation of privilege vulnerabilities, 3 spoofing, 1 XSS, and 1 EOP. All were rated critical, with a CVSS score ranging from 6.5 to 9.8, which is the second highest CVSS score of the month, with an average risk score of 89, which is very, very serious. So thank you, Microsoft. But if you do see any of the CVEs that are actually put on a lot of the next slides, some of those have been addressed already. You don't have to do anything to resolve those yourself. As we mentioned, we had the largest Patch Tuesday ever. In fact, I've already said that this year, and we still have 2 more months to go. We have already exceeded the total number of vulnerabilities now in October than we had in 2024. A huge number of fixes in this release. With the larger fixes, you have larger payloads, you have more testing that you need to perform. So if you are still designing your strategy, then you may want to consider groups of patches this time around, simply because of the size of those patches may be significant. And if you're in a highly distributed environment, potentially across continents, you may need to be wise in your selection criteria and roll them out in phases. And we're going to go into that in a bit of detail very soon. We have 5 critical vulnerabilities, 159 important, with 1 medium risk. 12 of them are likely to be weaponized. We haven't had that many ever in a single Patch Tuesday this month. 2 weaponized, 1 public aware. Luckily, none of the weaponized are also public aware, which is good. And we have 12 jump points. Now, as I mentioned, some of those are already fixed by Microsoft, so you don't have to worry about them, but it is good to know that those vulnerabilities are automatically addressed. If they are not addressed, and we have a list for you on the website, the jump point allows a vulnerability, if it exploits through one particular technology, to move laterally within the organization and then to perhaps leave some breadcrumbs to go further inside your organization by taking advantage of other known exploits. So from a strategy perspective, we always recommend to close those jump points as quickly as you can, even if the vulnerability isn't a critical severity or a high severity. If it has a jump point, please make it one of your priorities. Now, the bug leaderboard, wow, we have a huge number of elevation of privilege. In fact, we have more elevation of privilege vulnerabilities than we had in total last month across the whole of Patch Tuesday. Elevation of privilege is where a threat actor gains access to an employee's account, that's your username and password, bypassing the proper authorization channels and successfully grants themselves access to data they're not supposed to have. Obviously, that can lead to other exploits within the organization, but it is typically considered the second most critical type of bug of any of the Microsoft patches. Remote code execution happens to be the worst kind of bug. That's a class of cyber attack in which attackers remotely execute commands or place malware or other malicious code on your computer or network. We had 29 of those, followed by information disclosure. That's when a system unintentionally reveals sensitive data, such as memory leaks happens quite regularly. If you can read that memory whilst it's going through the memory, it can appear in clear text, and you might grab somebody's password, for example. Denial of service, simply to make the system unstable, unavailable for users, and to cause widespread downtime. There are 11 fixes of those, followed by spoofing. With 11, that's an attacker pretending to be someone else to get access to a system, deceiving the system or trick a user. And feature bypass, actually, I think doesn't get the kind of recognition that it kind of deserves. We have 10 of those. That's when you are able to bypass the security mechanisms without disabling it to access something on the system you're not supposed to have. So there are security safeguards in place in the operating system that is supposed to stop me from doing something that could be dangerous or unsafe. And if we can bypass that without disabling it, then it's effectively going around the issue, finding out really sophisticated ways to move around those safeguards. I think that actually that's quite a serious issue. We only have 10 of those, but certainly remote code execution is by far and away the most serious type of bug. Now, if you're not an absolute customer and you're looking at a patching strategy or a recommendation for what patches to deploy, please note you do have the flexibility of deploying the updates in groups or phases. Sometimes they're called rings, where you choose the very worst kind of patches that you need to deploy that solve the vulnerabilities that are the worst in your organization, followed by the next set of vulnerabilities, followed by the next set of vulnerabilities. So think of this as a wave of deployments. That has many advantages. One, you have faster remediation of the most serious kinds of threats. Secondly, it reduces the load on your network. So you're not trying to deploy everything at once. You're trying to be very organized and efficient. We recommend to use these 6 factors when it comes to the selection of your strategy, whether you are just choosing a specific one set of vulnerabilities or whether you're grouping them together, starting with the vendor severity, which ranges from critical, high, or also known as important, medium, low, and NA. Obviously, critical being the most severe, NA being the least severe. The CVSS score is a special calculation given to any vulnerability with a CVE, and it goes to a calculator that works out the seriousness of that threat. Now, this is out of 10, so a vulnerability that carries a score of 10 is the highest threat, which would be the equivalent of critical severity. And we have critical, high, or important, medium, low, and NA, just like we have with vendor severity. Now, if you combine the two together, and perhaps there are vendors that are often releasing vulnerabilities where the severity is NA or low or medium, but the CVSS score doesn't believe that to be true and is ranking it as high or critical, then if you combine the two together, you have a better way or more a better way of choosing the threats that actually really matter. The next two are the state of the exploit or the state of the threat. We have weaponized and public aware. Weaponized means it's under active attack. Either the vendor has recognized that it's under active attack, or through our antivirus partners, we have found that they are under active exploit. Now, when a vulnerability becomes weaponized, the vendor or the CVE CVSS score doesn't always get updated to reflect that. So we like to use the weaponized as a state to say if something is weaponized, it should be prioritized automatically. Public aware doesn't mean you're finding out on this webinar, I'm sorry to say. It means that somebody, maybe a bug bounty program, has published the exact blueprint to exploit that threat. If something is public aware, it doesn't mean it will become weaponized. In fact, many public aware vulnerabilities never do become weaponized immediately. But guess what? Weaponization can happen at any time. And there are lots of vulnerabilities that are public aware that carry a severity of low, medium, that perhaps fall through the cracks, don't get addressed until some point in the future when that will become weaponized. That is where automation solutions that you have can really help. If you can allocate an automation in your patching strategy to automatically pull in anything that is weaponized or public aware and automatically deploy it, it means you have less human interaction with that process and a much faster deployment of those critical risks. If you want to know more about that automation, please do get in touch. Now, to balance everything, we have countermeasures. Countermeasures are really useful if you have a large number of patches you need to deploy. As I mentioned, a large number of patches have challenges. Those challenges include the speed in which you can roll out, the reboots that are required, multi-language, multi-region, multi-continent. It can take a long time and have a large team effort to go ahead and roll out all of those updates. Countermeasures are one of two, which the vendor can provide you the ability to mitigate or work around the risk. Mitigations means that you might have to enable something in your antivirus, or if you are using zero trust, maybe enable something that will actually stop that that exploit from actually being attacked. Or a workaround, maybe there's a registry key or a setting or a local policy that you can change on the device itself. By applying that countermeasure, you resolve the vulnerability and therefore you reduce the risk. If you have a system that allows you to remotely deploy those countermeasures, that's brilliant. Do take a note of the reversal instructions from the vendor. If the vendor says, here are the registry keys to apply, go ahead and set this, and it mitigates the works around the problem. If they recommend to remove those once you are done, please then remove the registry key, remove the group policies that you implemented to countermeasure that vulnerability. Shouldn't be leaving registry keys on a system if they're not needed. And of course, the only thing that we can't do, unless you are an absolute customer, is balance everything with your exposure. Your exposure is unique to your organization and your organization alone. You might have some high critical vulnerabilities that are weaponized on a very, very few number of machines, but you also might have maybe a lower severity vulnerability that is weaponized on a much higher number of machines. I know, according to that example, which of those two I would be prioritizing because obviously the more systems that are impacted, the greater the risk. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to pop over to the Patch Tuesday recommendation. And if you are new to our webinar, welcome. We actually put everything on our website on Patch Tuesday for you to access. If you pop across to absolute.com, what you'll see is up on the top side, we'll have the resources section. Under the resources, we'll have access to our blog page. Our blog page contains all of our Patch Tuesday articles, plus all of our security recommendations and fantastic articles that we're writing for everybody to benefit, of which one of these is, of course, the Patch Tuesday article. Now, we had fixes for pretty much everything, including Windows 10. Internet Explorer happens to also be fixed again. I can't believe that. We're still saying Internet Explorer. We had fixes across the whole lot. Windows, components, Office, WSUS. We're going to talk about in a second. Graphics components, drivers. And of course, we lost support for Windows 10, which I've already mentioned. There are a couple of things that we do need to talk about. The first being WSUS. Now, WSUS is a patching solution. It is the Microsoft patching service that is used to keep the operating system up to date. It's very commonly used on servers. It's also very commonly used on Windows as well. Now, this particular vulnerability is a deserialization of untrusted data that the Windows service can allow an authorized attacker to execute over the network. Now, this is what's called wormable between WSUS servers. So if you are in a organization that has offices across multiple continents, what you might have is a WSUS server in each continent or in each of your offices, and there's potential for that to whip around. If you think about the risk of this, if something could exploit a file within the WSUS, and that file is now being deployed to devices, then you can probably imagine how dangerous that can be very, very quickly, leading to complete system compromise. It has the second highest CVSS score of 9.8 with a critical severity. Its attack vector is network, which means any network, including the internet. No privileges are needed, no user interaction is required, and it has low complexity. My second is a vulnerability I'm deeply worried about. It's CVE 2025-49708. This is a Windows graphics component. It's a remote code execution vulnerability. It's a use after free. Now, use after free means that an application has written some code to a piece of memory to be used later. That's what they say. That's what it means when they say use after free. Now, if you can go into that memory block and change it from what that original application put there to something that you have created, then the Microsoft Graphics component goes into that memory, takes that now modified piece of code, which can lead to crash. It can lead to that code that you put there doing something other than what that application was meant to do. That is why this actually carries a CVSS score of 9.9. It is 0.1 away from 10 being the most serious kind of threat. It has an attack vector of network with low privileges, no user interaction, no complexity. The reason this is one of my deepest worries is because this is what we call a jump point. I mentioned lateral attack. Now, they're saying that if you have virtual systems on your devices and you compromise this Windows machine that has those guests running, you can jump from this machine to one of the guests on that device. Extremely serious, even if that VM that's running is not vulnerable to that original exploit. Super, super serious. So please do patch that one urgently. My next one is CVE 2025 59236. This is a Microsoft Excel remote code execution vulnerability. It's also a use after free. There's quite a few of these use after frees actually in this patch release. Not as serious on the CVSS score 8.4, but it still has a critical severity. Its attack vector is local, and that means you need access to the local network. It has no privileges required, no user interaction, low complexity. Now, simply opening up one of those files is actually a way of exploiting it. Now, there is a recommendation from a vulnerability security posture standpoint. Reinforce your security policies by disabling macros and enforcing file origin policies. Very simple to do. If you have a vulnerability remediation solution, you can go and change these settings on the remote device. And what that does is it tells the user, you are opening up a file that has a macro inside it. Did you expect the macro to be there? The user has to allow it. You can also turn that off so they can't choose it, but at least you're giving something front of mind. There is something in this file that could be suspicious. And file origin policies means that if the file came from a place where you didn't expect, so it came from the internet or it come from an area of your network and you're not sure where it came from, maybe it doesn't have a signature inside of it. When it's opened, before it's opened, it'll actually say, this looks like it may have come from a different place. Are you sure? And again, top of mind, are you sure that this has come from the place where you expect it to? And that's just one way of trying to protect your organization. Those types of security policies are really, really useful as they make the user take notice of that OK or cancel button. My next one is actually a pair of vulnerabilities, CVE 2025 59227 and also 2025 59234. These are both Microsoft Office remote code execution vulnerabilities, again using the use after free vulnerability. They both are critical, CVSS 7.8. They both have attack vectors of local, so you do need local network access. Neither of them require privileges. Both require user interaction with low complexity. Now, simply opening up a file is serious enough, but in this case, the preview pane is an attack vector, meaning you don't actually need to even open the file to get an exploit. If you simply have that preview pane open and you click the file, then what's inside the file can actually be exploited. Super serious. If you are using Microsoft Office, this might want to be one of those first deployments to keep your organization safe. And lastly, I'm not going to try to pronounce this. I have already Googled it, trying to say, how do I pronounce this? Agiri modem vulnerability. That's CVE 2025 24990. It's an elevation of privilege vulnerability in this modem driver. Modem drivers, wow. So if you're using software to send faxes, facsimiles, then you can actually get attacked, full system compromise. This is one of the weaponized vulnerabilities that we've mentioned. It has a Severity of important, which is really interesting, why it's important and not critical. CVSS score is 7.8. The one thing, though, about this, which actually I found really funny, Microsoft have fixed this by not fixing the bug, but by removing the driver. The reason they've done that is because this driver is on every single operating system from Windows 10 and onwards. So even if you are not using facsimiles or faxes in software in your organization, this driver is already there. So it is extremely important that that gets patched. It is 6th on my list, but it is not a low priority patch. Please go ahead and make sure that that gets deployed urgently to all your organizations. If you can delete the driver yourself, go ahead and delete the driver yourself. That would be a workaround for this particular risk. As I mentioned, there are some jump points, 12 in total. Go ahead and take the CVE from here, pop it into your tool set, find if what type of lateral attack is possible from these, and make sure that they get put perhaps into the first round of patching that you do. 3 takeaways from me. Do prioritize those remote code execution flaws. They are the most serious, especially that WSUS update. If you are worried about the deployment of your patches and you don't want to deploy too many patches at once because you're worried about the impact and the testing of your organization, try to build in some kind of resilience. There are lots of resilient techniques, and we'd love to talk to you about our ways of making your organization resilient to not just patches, but software in general, where you can recover devices at scale super quickly so that any patch that you deem a risk to your organization can be deployed, and in the event that something does happen to it, then we can recover that device quickly. And of course, please continue to monitor. Every single one of the vulnerabilities I've mentioned today can change at any time. It can change from its severity to its CVSS to its weaponized status. Please don't just set your process up once and let it run for the month. Do continue to monitor that. What we've done is we've given you a handy download. This PDF is available from the site. It contains all of the relevant information at this time on every one of those vulnerabilities, from the CVSS score to its weaponization status. It's additional information to help you make the right decision about the priority in which you are going to deploy that. Just pop that CVE into your tool set, write down your action plan, whether it's your 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5 kind of risk score, and then go ahead and deploy those to your organization to keep your organization safer. Thank you very much for joining me today. Halloween is just around the corner, and you know what's coming after that. So until November, I wish you happy patching.
Okay, thanks, Rob. It's always good to hear your take on the most important vulnerabilities this month. Before we go, I'm excited to share that our flagship Secure Endpoint Edition, Resilience for Automation, has been recognized as a leader and outperformer in the latest GigaOM Radar report for patch management solutions. This report is a must-have if you're looking to update your endpoint security stack, and you can download the report free of charge. We've licensed it from our website using this code. This is the 3rd year running that we've been designated as a leader, and it's a valuable tool that I'm sure you'll want to access. I'd also like to share a thought-provoking new broadcast series that's starting this month. As Rob said, we're here to help you with your resilience and help you enable your organization to prevent downtime, to stop downtime. Our own CISO, Harold Rivas, will be looking in depth at cyber resilience challenges faced by all CISOs and sharing his experience and tips on how to deal with them. You can register for live sessions or watch on demand using this QR code. And once again, thanks, Rob, and thank you for watching this broadcast. Finally, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're concerned about a specific vulnerability or you're looking for some advice on patching strategy for your organization, you can get in touch using the QR code or link here.